And this recent wave of patriotism will just bring in a lot of sales for NIO. And we can already see this taking place. The entire Chinese stock market is absolutely diving off a cliff after BlackRock announces that it's pulling out of China. It's going to cancel its Chinese flexible equity fund in November. And also because of the overall stock market collapse in the US, they're banning iPhones for government employees, not allowing them to use an iPhone at work. And this may also be followed suit with state-owned enterprises, which there are just a ton of. And could this have also something to do with NIO's upcoming phone, NIO phone? Listen, right now here in China, there is a huge wave of patriotism that has arisen from the launch of the Huawei Mate 60 Pro series. That phone, for the first time ever, has a SoC, 7nm SoC, made here in China, which is a big leap forward, and nobody expected this to happen. And it has essentially stirred a huge wave of patriotism. Even this content creator, Li Dachui, who took delivery of a ES6 and even made a video about it. And by the way, that's NIO CEO of Beijing. I've also done an interview with him over here. Check it out. And he even said this phone was incredible. And there's this meme going on. And here, I'll play this clip for you.
我给你们听一下拿麦克风。
And it's basically one of Huawei's founders saying, we are way ahead, we are way ahead. And this just became a meme here in China, and everybody is using this meme essentially to show off that they're ahead. Now, in reality, you know, this is a big achievement nonetheless. That phone with 5G capabilities and has 0 parts from the US, which is a big achievement. But it is still quite different from iPhones and a few steps behind the iPhones. But what that has really caused right now is a segregation between China and US amongst its civilians here in China. Because beforehand, it was always like, because we're using stuff from the US has say so, and they can just ban Google from allowing Huawei to use Android and essentially stop the technology development here in China, and also ban sales of Huawei abroad, and just be bullied in general. But this is for the first time that they have a product that is comparable and even better. And especially because if you think about it, like right now, I'm recording my video on iPhone 14 Pro Max. Here in China, it doesn't have the satellite feature that many of you Americans or Europeans might have. But the Huawei Mate 60 Pro series does have satellite feature for Chinese, and it has dual satellite connectivity or something like that. For the first time, self-develop everything by themselves, even the operating system by themselves, Harmony OS, everything inside the phone by themselves pretty much, and you got a really good product. And this has really given the government confidence to really give the middle finger back to the US. You're going to ban our products, you're going to ban Huawei from selling in the US, well, we're going to give you some restrictions as well. Remember, the government just wants to control its people. The government likes to follow the trend. They see everybody supporting Huawei. They follow this trend as well. And of course, this is very beneficial for Huawei and also other Chinese companies in general. But also think about this, the Tesla vehicle ban. Same thing. If you work for the government and you drive a Tesla, you're not allowed to drive that to work. And even it's going to the extent of some highways actually just banning Teslas without any reason whatsoever. It's just essentially the government forcing you to go with domestic brands, almost pushing patriotism forward. This is just baby steps in terms of what the government is doing, banning government officials. But imagine if they did what the US did. US bans Huawei entirely due to concerns about it spying on people. Well, what if the Chinese government did that? They ban Apple completely because of fears of it's going to spy on you and stuff like that. We're definitely heading in that direction, but it's questionable if we'll actually get there. Might be possible depending on how intense the geopolitical situation gets. And also with Tesla, if you're going to ban Chinese companies from selling over there, place sanctions, and think about it this way, if the Chinese government hits back and say, hey, Tesla, you're not allowed to work with Chinese companies like Baidu Maps, which provides the mapping for Tesla's system here in China, that would favor the other guys, the domestic brands, even more. You guys are wondering, why is this thing all beneficial for NIO? The stock market collapsing so much, isn't that bad? Now you have to remember, this rise in patriotism, and more importantly, uncertainty around the American companies, really pushes consumers towards brands like NIO, BYD, etc. And with those viral videos, two viral videos. First one, Tesla being banned on highway for no apparent legitimate reason. You're just not allowed to drive on the highway. And then second, also, the massive price cuts on Tesla really hurting consumers so much, and some of them being fooled to buy the car early by the sales reps for some small discount, only to later on have the big price cuts. These Tesla owners just upset and posting ads. This one Tesla owner spent 500k RMB. I mean, he can probably buy like 5 or 6 Tesla Model X's with that money, but he spent that all on ads to explain to everybody that Tesla is bullshit. I mean, like, can you imagine that? So all of this, and of course that's going viral. There's so many people seeing those ads, if it's not directly, but definitely online, like you guys are seeing it right now. So all this uncertainty really just pushes consumers to buy, and more importantly, consider vehicles like NIO. And if they do their full homework, and there's a steep learning curve with NIOs, but if they do the full research and learn about NIO's whole entire ecosystem, it's a no-brainer. Of course, you'd buy a NIO. So this rise in patriotism just means in the future, there's going to be more and more sales, more and more customers wanting to buy made in China. Now, of course, the flip side of that argument is that could potentially, this whole entire back and forth between the US and China could potentially delay NIO's opening in the US. NIO is still definitely going to go and sell cars in the US, but right now, it's very important to stay focused at what's ahead. And this recent wave of patriotism will just bring in a lot of sales for NIO. And we can already see this taking place at the Chengdu Auto Show. NIO's booth is the most popular booth. So keep that in mind. There's going to be more sales going forward. So make no mistake, my friend. Even though these bans look bad on paper and Chinese ADRs are taking a hit, including stocks here in China, but sales will absolutely increase, and they are increasing. This is the sort of patriotism that you want. People supporting domestic brands, everybody loving NIO, picking NIO, and sort of pretty much forced to buy a non-American brand to avoid those uncertainty. So this is very, very good news for NIO stockholders.